Hi, in this video we'll give you an overview of the Cashofy accounting software. Basically we'll talk about four things. We'll tell you how to set up a company. We'll tell you how to manage your invoices, your purchases in the software. We'll also tell you how to create new products. And lastly, we'll tell you some basic features around managing the inventory, viewing the reports. So let's get started with the first step. The moment you log in into the system, you'll see this dashboard. The first thing that you need to do is you need to go to the Getting Started button, and you'll see a step-by-step guide here. Now, the first step for you is to set up your company. In this window, you need to provide all the details about your company, including the GST number. So let's say the name of my company is Nike and Co. I can also add my logo from here. I can add my company tagline. If I don't have one, I can just leave it blank. I can add the address. That gives me a list of states that I can choose from. I can add the PIN code. I can enter the website, and then I can add the GSTN. If I don't have a GSTN, again I can leave this field blank. And Cashofy is a multi-currency system, so you can select whichever currency is applicable, and you can also create new currencies from here. So I'm done with creating a company or updating the company details, so I can just do save. Let's go back to the step-by-step guide. The second step is adding your products. Now you can manually add your products, or you can import these products via a CSV or an Excel. So I'll show you how to add the products manually in the system. So there are already two products that have been created. So let me create a third product. So let's say the name of this product is trousers. Now you need to also tell the system whether this product is a consumable, a service, or a stockable product. Stockable products are products for which you want to maintain inventory, and services are things like professional services, CA services, all those things. And then consumables are things for which you do not maintain inventory, and they just get consumed in the day-to-day operations of the business. So let's say I want to keep track of the inventory for trousers. So I'll select this as a stockable product. The moment I do so, you can see that there are two buttons that appear on the top, which is the current quantity on hand and the procurement requests. So let's say that right now I have around 10 pieces of trousers available, so I can just add that here. Now let's come back to the other things that you need to add for that product. So you need to provide a product code. You need to tell the system as per GST and whether it's a good or service. Then you can select the tax rate. As per the current GST and slabs, 5%, 12%, 18% and 28% are the current tax rates. So amongst these rates you can select whichever is applicable. The system will automatically decide when you're creating invoices whether you need to apply for IGST or CGST or SGST. Again, here you can see you need to enter the HSN SEC code. It's an optional field. If you do not know the HSN SEC code, you can also use our HSN SEC finder to get the right code. Here you need to enter the sale price, the cost price, the unit of measure, and just save. So you can see that in products, trousers is the third product that has been created. Coming back to our step-by-step setup. So we are done with step 1, step 2. Let's come to step 3, wherein you need to add your customers. Similar to products, again you can add your customers via Excel or CSV, or you can manually add your customers. So I'll show you how to add a customer. So you just go to create. Let's say the name of our customer is Adidas. I'll enter any random address. So I have an option to also enter the GSTN of the customer. Finally, I can enter the phone number, mobile number, and the email. So this can be. Now, if the billing and shipping address are same, I need not create the shipping address. But if they are different, which means that the customer is billed at this location, but the goods needs to be delivered at another location, then you can also create the shipping address. So you can choose shipping address from here, and then you can select who will be there available to kind of do the pickup. You can enter the email ID and everything, and then save and close. So you can see a shipping address has been added. So this is how you create a customer. I click on save, and as I can see, Adidas has been added as a customer. Coming back to a step-by-step guide, the fourth step is to add your sales. So basically, once you have created the company, created the products, and created the customer, you're all set to do the invoicing. So to add sales, I suggest that we refer to the dashboard. Now on the dashboard, you will see 6-7 tabs. The first tab is your dashboard. Your dashboard gives you an overview of what the numbers are. So the first segment, which is the customer invoices, it tells you the recent sales that have been made by your company. Vendor bills gives you an overview of the purchases that has been made. Bank gives you an overview of what's reflected into the bank statement and what is the current bank balance. Cash tells you similarly about the cash balances. So on the top, apart from dashboard, you will see that there is a sales tab. This sales tab has estimates. So estimates are essentially quotations. So if you do not want to create an invoice for a customer, or if the order is not yet confirmed, you should first create a quotation, and this quotation has no implication on your accounting. So you can create as many quotations as you want to. If you think that the customer order is confirmed and he needs to be invoiced, then you can create the customer invoice. To record the customer payments, you can click on payments tab and record the payment. From here you can create the customers, and from this button you can create the products. Now you can see a tab here which says sales order and delivery challans. So this is applicable as required by the government of India, that if you are delivering something in terms of inventory from one warehouse or from your warehouse to some other customer, you need to create a sales order and you also need to create a delivery challan. So if that is the case, then you first need to create a sales order and delivery challan, and then you can convert that into customer invoices. But I would suggest that in 90% of the situations, if you're delivering services and if you're not doing physical delivery of products, then you can just create invoices and not create the sales order. So this was a sales tab. Moving on, there's a purchases tab. So the first option here is vendor bills. So these vendor bills will include almost all the purchases. So if you purchased stationery, if you purchase raw material, goods, and everything will become part of the vendor bills here. All the payments made to vendor will be recorded here. If you need to add vendors, you can add from this button. And finally, the purchase orders. So purchase orders are typically used by relatively larger companies who want to maintain again inventory for all the purchases that have been made. So that has to then pass through the purchase order process. The fourth tab is the accountant tab. Now this is something that is slightly complex and more relevant for accountants or people who have understanding around journal entries, chart of accounts. So we'll not cover this in this section. We'll cover this separately in an accounting section video. Finally, you have reports available, so you can see all your invoices, you can see the customer ledgers, journal ledgers, trial balance, balance sheet. None of his, so all these things are automatically created by the system. So once you have done your complete invoice entry and your bills entry, at the end of the year you can see what the current balance sheet is or what your current P&L statement is. Finally, you will see tax filings. So our system is completely GST compatible. Whatever you do in terms of adding invoices or adding purchases, all of that is automatically converted into a GST return format, and the moment you click the file GST return button, the system will prepare a GST return and file it with the government. Secondly, you can also file your income tax return via the system. You can file your TDS return as well as via the system. So you can see that this is like a complete tax suite that can be used by you or your accountant to create all the tax returns and submit them directly with the government. So this was all about the menu. Let me go one by one. Let me start with the estimates. So as I mentioned, estimate or quotations are required when you just want to send a rate quote to the customer. So I'm just inputting random value. So let's say we want to build trousers to the customer, the product that we just created. So you can see that the tax rate IGST 5% has been automatically applied to this particular product. And the reason why 5% has been applied is because the place of supply for this particular company, which is Nike, was Delhi, and for customer one it is Andaman Nicobar. So since it is an intrastate supply, IGST has been applied. Had this place of supply been Delhi, which means a supply within the state, then CGST and SGST would have been applied. So if I were to talk about the order lines, so this is basically where you select the product from. Description is something that is published on the invoice. So if you want to change the description or you want to show something else on the invoice, you can just change the description and that will be printed on the invoice. I can select a couple of other products as well. So as you saw that in case of t-shirt, I got a notification that the inventory is not available. So the system automatically gives me notification if there is an inventory gap. So let's say that this is what I want to send in my quotation. So I just save this. I can confirm this sale. So the moment I confirm this sale, a sales order will be created. Now, if you want to ship this to a customer as per the GST requirement, you need to create the delivery challan. So you can see a delivery icon here. So I can directly create the delivery challans from here itself. So it gives me this delivery challan. So right now I am required to ship one trouser to the customer. So I can just edit this. I can say that this one trouser has been shipped. So the moment I do so, I can just validate this part. So as you saw that t-shirts were not available, so we can either create a back order for that, or we can just say that we don't want to create a back order. So all these windows will be available if you have chosen the inventory module and if you want to maintain the inventory. If you're not maintaining the inventory and you're just dealing in services, then all this thing is not required. So let's come to the invoice part. So if I'm dealing in a service or if I'm dealing in products for which inventory maintenance is not required, I can directly create the invoices. So for example, I want to create an invoice for Adidas with payment 15 days terms, and I can add the products from here. This is similar to what I did in case of the quotations. Now you can see here that SGST and CGST have been applied because the place of supply is Delhi, and Delhi to Delhi transfer will require SGST, CGST. So I can just finalize this invoice once I've added this. Now you get multiple options. You can either send this invoice via email to the customer. You can also print this invoice from here. So you have two options. You can either print this GST invoice without header, or you can print this as a normal GST invoice with header if you are not using your own letterhead. So as you can see, both the invoicing addresses and the shipping address are visible here, and a tax invoice has been created with the GST and your company details. The complete product description is there, and the total of the taxes are also shown bifurcated here. So you can print this invoice and courier it to the customer. Now let's assume that the customer makes the payment to us, so you can just register the payment for the customer. So you can select whether it came via bank or via cash. So let's say that the customer paid via bank, and we can just validate. The moment you do so, you will see that the payment is automatically reflected here. Now, if in case the customer wants a refund, you can create a credit note or refund from via this button. So as you can see that we have one invoice been created, and the status here is paid and amount due is 0. The system also provides multiple cool functions around reports and charting. So for example, if you want to see a pivot chart for this, so by clicking this button you can see a pivot, and you can add different fields and create your own calculation pivot as required. You can also see this in a graphical format via this button. So moving on, payments. So again, you had an option to kind of directly go to the invoice and record the payment, or you can custom add payments from this window, where you can tell whether you received the money or you send the money, and what was the name of the customer, payment journal, and then click on confirm. Finally, you can create customers and products from these two buttons, which we have already talked about. Let's shift to the vendor bills now. So from this window, you can create a vendor bill. You can select the vendor. You can type in the invoice number as per the vendor. Again, choose the state, the billing date, the due date, currency. And I can just click on validate. If in case, like both in case of a vendor bill or a normal invoice, I want to delete the invoice or I want to cancel the invoice, I can simply cancel the invoice by clicking this button. I can also ask for refund by clicking this button. So you can see a vendor bill has been created, and you can make the payments directly via this button or go to the payments here in the tab. This is where you can add your vendors on the vendors window. It's similar to adding customers. So on the accountants part, I will not discuss this in detail because we are covering this in a second video, but I'll just give you a brief overview. So the system, the Cashofy accounting system, automatically does all your journal entries as you are doing your invoicing, as you're doing your purchases. All the journal entries have been created automatically, so the accountant or you need not worry about the journal part. That's already been taken care of. Similarly, your chart of accounts is also prepared automatically by the system. Let's move on to the reports. So you can see the invoicing report, you can see the trial balance, you can see the balance sheets all from here. So I can print the profit and loss statement as required. So you can see a complete profit and loss statement is available on a click of a button. One special report, aged partner balance. So this aging report tells you who are the main customers who owe you money and for how long have they been owing you money. So right now if you see, since all the payments have been received, there is no due, as in no one is there in this list. Otherwise, if someone has delayed the payments by 60 to 90 days, his name will appear in this tab. If someone has delayed the payment by 120 plus days, his name will appear in this tab, and accordingly you can send reminders to that particular customer to make the payment. Finally, the tax filing window, wherein you can, through which you can file your different tax returns. So this was an overview of how to manage products inventory, invoicing in the Cashofy system. In our other videos, we'll talk about more on reports, and we'll also talk about how to do accounting. Hope you found this video helpful. Thanks.